Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the Spaceship of Mysteries, hosted by divisionradio.net. Today, as every Wednesday, we bring you a very special topic, another profound mystery. As always, our goal is to bring you a topic to reflect deeply on. Today, we are going to talk about the world of the mind. This is an exciting topic, a hot topic for everyone. Surely, for many, it is a topic that never goes out of style. And why is this? Because human beings have always sought to understand the mind. We remind all of our listeners that if you're interested in getting more detailed information on our activities and all the topics we teach, you can find this out by visiting our page on Facebook, Gnosis Atlanta, GNOSIS If, for any reason, you are not able to listen to us while we are on the air, or you missed any broadcast program due to difference in time zone hours, work schedule, or any other situation, you can enter the official website of Spaceship of Mysteries, where you can always find the latest program we have recorded. For those who are just connecting with the Spaceship of Mysteries or in divisionradio.net, we want to remind you that you can also follow us on Facebook, where you can find all sorts of information on Spaceship of Mysteries. We are pleased to inform you that soon you will have access in English of the topics that we have previously transmitted. This is Evan Saron. I am very pleased to bring you the following topic, the world of the mind. I'd like to begin with the following statement. We must experience the truth in a direct, practical, and real way. This is only possible in stillness and silence of the mind, which is accompanied through meditation. The challenge is to learn to stay still, to put our mind in silence. Meditation helps us to calm down, to learn to see life as it is, and not as we think it is. We face a few, or maybe more than a few times, great challenges, but many of the times, that is how we go through our lives, facing continuous challenges. We may face great challenges, but many of the times, that is how we go through our lives, facing continuous challenges. That is why, wherever you are, we invite everyone to have a good cup of tea or coffee and let us all calmly and serenely delve into this mystery. We urge all of our listeners to set aside an hour of your valuable time and listen to this teaching reflectively, because it really is a mystery that can help us in our life. The biggest challenge right now is to put aside whatever we are doing and enjoy this topic. We can assure you that at the end, you'll agree with us, and you will gain an important instrument that can help us see life clearly. It is not possible to understand what true love is until we have understood the real problem of the mind. The mind can come to us with so many deceptions. It continuously deceives us, making us take as true fictional events, things that are lies. We let our mind wander, and even allow the mind to assume that it knows the future. As inconceivable as it might be, we come to believe that the mind has some knowledge. The truth is that the mind has its foundation on its own memories and its own experiences. The mind is too much connected with the past. We will face serious challenges trying to connect with love if we keep on falling for the misconceptions of our deceitful mind. When we talk about the mind, we are talking about a myriad of thoughts that pass through our mind, hindering us from connecting with the child that dwells within us. The mind is energy. The mind is not the brain. It is independent from matter, from the body. The mind can be transported to remote places. That is why sometimes it happens to us that when we arrive at a place and we think, I feel like I have been here before, or it seems like I've seen you before, or I think I know you. The mind can travel to different places, and that is why the mind is a mystery. The mind must be controlled and directed, otherwise, our mind becomes crazy. Many times, the mind gets into places it shouldn't get into. That is why we have to learn to calm our mind. We have to learn to calm our life, to set aside a moment to meditate, to reflect. There are some particular mental states, such as the so-called hypnotic state. Another kind of states are regressions. In this practice, a person is induced into a hypnotic state and goes far enough in the memories to remember events from the past, events not only from this life, but from previous lives. This practice is only possible with the power of the mind. People who have done this practice report that they clearly remember details of the past and even of a past life. It is possible that one finds good things, or even the opposite. One can also find very difficult things to face, taking a person into crisis. Coming back to the subject of regressions, it is a practice used clinically, proving that science is aware of this practice. It is clear that the mind can travel through time and space. This is already a fact, proven with concrete and methodical practices. Our subjective scientists of this time know very well the power of the mind. Even one of the most perfect industries, the advertising industry, they do such a good job manipulating the mind that everyone ends up buying things offered in commercials. Another situation related to the mind is the crisis we're experiencing now. We're having mental breakdowns. The more one concentrates on the problem, the more suffering is generated within us. The important thing is to learn how to get out of that situation. We must learn to realize in which moment we get distracted. This can happen at any time. For example, how many times have we been distracted while driving, which can have severe consequences? The same thing happens in our daily lives. We become distracted and go through bad experiences. For example, we take the wrong call from someone. Due to distracted moments, we start listening to conversations that do not concern us. We can make a long list of embarrassing situations. As we have already mentioned, this happens because we get distracted. We are unconsciously asleep. The mind can travel through time and space independently from the brain. The brain elaborates the thoughts, but it is not the thoughts. The brain is an instrument of the mind, a fundamental instrument. If the brain dies, the mind cannot manifest. It is important that we study the mind if we really want to understand what is called love. Children and young people may have an elastic mind. They're on the quest for new things. They're eager to understand. But as the years go by, the mind gradually solidifies. It becomes like a rock. The mind of the elderly, it is hard as stone. It does not change, even with cannon shots. Hence, the popular saying, genius and figure till the grave. Regardless of age, we must understand this, since we all go there. If among our listeners there is someone of an older age, well, we are very happy because one of the strange cases may occur. It is rare to find seniors who are truly interested in self-transformation. Why? Because the mind has solidified. It only believes in what it has lived. It is painful to watch the mind turn to a hard rock. The mind is a killer of what is real. The mind destroys love. Those who reach old age find it difficult to love because their mind is saturated with experiences of all kinds, mostly painful. This matter of the mind is difficult to settle because the mind leads us to believe a lie. It does not allow us to connect with the truth. The most unfortunate thing is to be disconnected from love. Let me show you what that looks like. Let's see what is happening in our planet. Despite the fact that at the moment we're living in a full crisis, we have a tremendous health crisis, an economic crisis, can also mention other sorts of crises. World powers are not only focused on the desire to destroy other countries, but they seek to destroy themselves. They want to destroy everyone. This happens because the thoughts and the minds of those political leaders are disordered, in complete chaos. Rather, they seem to have a devilish mind. We're here again talking about this wonderful subject of the mind. It is important to let everyone understand that the mind, when it reaches certain chaotic events, can represent a risk for humanity, a real disaster. There are cases when older people are called, rather vulgarly, cradle robbers. What happens is that many of them feel sexual passions, and of course, they wrongly mistake these feelings for love. It's common to see this everywhere. Forgive me for the expression, but every cradle robber goes through tremendous sexual arousals before dying with a conviction that they are in love. Love among very old people becomes very hard. It is almost impossible to experience love due to the rigid forms of the mind, the inflexibility in the thoughts, fixed ideas, and the way one views things. All these listed factors destroy any possibility of feeling true love, not to mention a myriad of memories from the past. The mind is the worst enemy of love. Unfortunately, love is dying out there more and more every day, because nowadays, love has the smell of a factory. It smells of a bank account, of fuel, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. It smells of news. The list continues, but at the end, it'll be the same issue. Love dies with every one of these listed items. So, you have to be careful, because the mind may become an enemy. Well, in fact, it is an enemy of love. The mind disconnects us from those divine assets that dwell within us. The reason for the lack of divinity manifestation within us is because we give consumer relevance to the mind. That is the problem. It is true that we are very used to living only in the mind, but the time has come to give way to love. Without delay, we ought to give way to the heart. Our mind is bottled up. We all have our minds in a sort of prison. Some have their minds bottled up in politics, on the left, on the right. Others have their minds bottled up in capitalism, in COVID-19. Others have their minds bottled up in jealousy, in hatred, in desire to attain wealth. And when wealth is not reached, the next scenario is a deep drop into suffering. Hardly anyone realizes how important it is to acquire inner peace. Above all, what is relevant in life is to learn to live in peace. There are people who live in a bottled mind, or they live with all sorts of attachments. They live in continuous suffering, engulfed with family problems. Because, do you know what? The mind is an expert. When it sees a problem, it digs its teeth into it. The mind loves problems, and above all, to keep them current, the mind loves to do that. When we feel we're in the middle of a storm, what is actually happening is that the mind is setting it for us, because the mind loves to make a storm in a glass of water. That is how complicated the mind is. It takes us out of the truth. That is why it's necessary to set the mind free. It's very rare to find someone who truly does not have a bottled mind. The key is to understand the process of our thoughts, to understand the continuous maneuvers of the mind. The mind is in constant motion. According to some scientific studies, it is estimated that in a day there are around 100,000 thoughts that can pass through the mind, and we're really only aware of few of them. The key to transforming the world is called love, but the mind destroys everything, including love. The key to ending this global problem, which we now live in, is to live in the function of love. If we allow love to coexist within us, we will be able to understand what the law is about. We could get the clear understanding that the key of freeing ourselves from this problem is by strengthening our immune system, by having very good health. If we observe what is happening now, to clearly realize who are those who succumb the most to death, unfortunately, those who die the most are our grandparents, or those who have poor diets with pre-existing health conditions. That is why it's necessary for us to deeply reflect on the issue, Together, we can change the world. It is possible if each of us, if every person who is listening, becomes aware of the situation and does what is necessary to accomplish this quest. We ought to do our part. In order to succeed, it is necessary to study the mind, to investigate it profoundly. I repeat, to investigate it deeply. What for? To truly understand it. Only by becoming masters will we kill the executioner of love. This means that we falsely believe that we are the masters of ourselves, but truly, we are not. The true concern about the issue with the mind is that it kills the divine. It kills love. And what is love? Love is wisdom. And whoever has wisdom, the person has everything. There we have the opportunity to learn to enjoy everything. Learn to enjoy the day, the night. Learn to enjoy now that you are at home. Learn to enjoy everything. Whoever becomes cheerful, that person learns to enjoy nature, to find wisdom in everything. But we have to be aware that the mind destroys love, and that is something that happens in our homes, work, schools, universities. We must never forget, nor should we forget this topic, because this is a topic to practice continuously. Do not forget about this. The mind could turn very dangerous. If we could understand our absurd way of thinking, we could balance ourselves, and thus be able to free ourselves from so much suffering. The problem is, the mind leads us to suffering. Whoever wants to condition love in the function of desire, in function of the I, which means I want, I wish, I think, those will certainly be the ones who are in the path of mislaying love. Cupid, the god of love, will never succumb to our ignorance, to our desires. It is unbelievable how we even want to enslave the gods. That is why it's necessary to eliminate from our innermost the 7 capital sins, by any name we would like to call them. The point is to work to eliminate gluttony, envy, sloth, anger, lust, pride, and greed. For what? In order to not kill the child of love that lives within each of us, the child of love who even lives within the worst person. However, when we have allowed the mind to manifest too much, the child of love cannot flourish. But how wonderful is it to wake up every day with the child of love dwelling within us. How wonderful would it be to sleep having within us the child of love. How wonderful would it be to talk to your children about the child of love who vibrates with true love within each of us. It is a wonderful thing to talk about friendship when one is connected with the child of love. We have mentioned that those who want to bottle up love in the egos, in the defects, certainly are in the path of losing love. When they realize it, love has already left their heart. Love can never be bottled up. It is inconceivable how we could even want to bottle up love. Unfortunately, human beings want to suppress love for ignorance. That is impossible. Love does not conform with our defects, and love does not comply with our ignorance. We expect that love must follow the inflexible, rigid trails traced by our thoughts and minds. This does not work like that. Love is free. Love is something sublime. Love is something that connects you with the truth. Love does not allow itself to be imprisoned. That is why the mind, being divided by comparisons, enslaved by dualism, is the reason for the destruction of love. The mind, enslaved in judgments of what is good or bad, destroys love. When the mind becomes undivided, serene, when it does not compare, when it awakens, the conscience awakens too. An awakened conscience is the great truth. When one awakens consciousness, what it is, what it connects with, it connects with your innate wisdom. And if you have seen wisdom, do you know what it is? That you have been connected with your conscience. That is why, when we meet here, In the spaceship of mysteries, we form a circle of force. Now we understand why the great teachers of our ancestors always made circles, because that was the way to create a greater force. We should pursue this as our goal in life, to connect with that precious pearl that lives in ourselves, in our conscience. By the way, it's not very far away. We do not need to go to Walmart or the mall or the beach or some other country. No, it is close. It is in the heart. It is something wonderful. But we need to free ourselves from subjective knowledge and connect with our objective knowledge. That is the only way to help us free ourselves from all pain and suffering. As unthinkable as it might seem, the mind loves to suffer. Does it sound insane? Well, there's nothing else that it likes the most. An example of situation could be a person who likes to continuously watch the news. Let us say in an obsessive way. This person ends up entering an emotional crisis, which winds up hurting not only the self, but those who live around them. If you have been there and done that, well, it's not the end of the world. It does not matter. We all have made mistakes. The important thing is to not continue repeating those same mistakes. What is urgent to do is to get the philosophy of life, which is the same as the philosophy of love. We need the philosophy of love to free us from the mind, from our excessive thinking. We love to think a lot. Only through the path of love will we be able to connect that objective consciousness with the objective knowledge. Sometimes what happens is that we allow ourselves to be gobbled up by the subjective knowledge and we end up just wandering around. To avoid that situation, it is necessary to understand the complexity of the mind, of course, if we want to walk the path of truth and love. Likewise, on the path of love, there are obstacles that continuously arise. Perhaps an opportunity comes to you and you reject it. It can be an invitation and you don't accept it. When you miss the bus, it is uncertain when it will come again. And that is why, when you're invited to a special place, go. If you're able to perceive that it is special, go. You might go to a place that brings you joy and peace to your heart. We always invite our listeners, and to all of those who attend our study center, to be attentive when they receive an invitation to reflect on the mind, the heart, on the great virtues that live within us. We instill all of them to take the opportunity to gain inner growth. That is why we're inviting you to join us every Friday at 7:30 p.m. online. We will have a maximum of 20 people joining us, participating with us. Send a message to 804-200-9496. Another requirement is to be a resident of the state of Georgia in the Metro Atlanta area of Norcross. Because this activity begins online first, then it will move in person because we cannot lose physical contact. We must talk about comprehension. It has to be clear when we talk about love. We're talking about that connection between love and comprehension. Without comprehension, we make many mistakes. While comprehension comes to us, we understand but do not comprehend. We can understand so many things that happen in the world now, but to grasp the comprehension of those things is different. There is a big difference. Understanding. Dear friends of the visionradio.net and the Spaceship of the Mysteries, is something intellectual. It belongs to the mind. It belongs to the brain. Understanding comes from consciousness. It comes from the bottom of the heart, and it's very different. It is very different to live our lives within the parameters of our brain than to live it guided by the heart with consciousness. The heart must dominate the mind. When we process understanding through the mind, we are not very astonished because it becomes a mental reasoning. Let us say understanding is kind of boring. On the other hand, processing things through comprehension, it is another story. It is something that makes your heart happy. You're amazed. When we comprehend, we can feel great joy within ourselves. That is why it is worth comprehending. Comprehension can also bring great pain to us because it sheds light on unseen issues. It really shows us a real, naked state of events going on in our lives, not how we think and believe things are. Above all, the important thing is to live in this life walking through the path of comprehension. We need to understand both processes. Mostly, we need to understand the mind to comprehend how we think. Thank you to our listeners for staying with us along the program. We have reached the last part of today's topic. We have been talking about the world of the mind. Thank you for joining us to reflect together. It is indeed a topic that is continuously present along our daily events. It is definitely the flashlight that would help us shed comprehension into every daily situation we go through. If we are able to succeed, we most likely have got to experience constant brief ecstasies. We could live in an unfaltered state of joy. If we embrace this choice, life as ever would be easier. Every single event in our lives would move naturally for us. We continuously live in an intellectual understanding process, and that is something boring. We better live in a comprehension format. That is something very different. When we grasp the comprehension process, we completely break the scheme that we have had with the mechanical mental scheme. This means to live life with natural astonishment, as children do. We should observe children's reactions to situations. They are open jars to curiosity, to astonishment from moment to moment. Anything that draws their attention is a marvel to live. Comprehension in children is a natural state. Mainly, this is the reason why children are freely, openly happy. Unfortunately, as they grow up, this natural state of comprehension starts fading until it's forgotten. As children start interacting more in the outer world, they start submerging into the rationing of the mind. The current education format, as it's delivered nowadays, conditions pupils merely into the reasoning pattern. What occurs next is that little by little, happy children vanish within rigid mental schemes, and adults' lives becomes a mechanical, monotonous life. When we are kids, when we are small, we happily list what we would like to become when we become adults. If we knew at that age that adults go through painful feelings when things get out of hand, when we do not understand the outcomes of life, then, most likely, we would like to remember what it's like to be kids, and to hold on to that natural comprehension and joy. Unlike adults, who at times feel like nothing new ever happens, and smiles are mostly absent in adults' faces. When sadness and lack of astonishment appear so strong, these thoughts become strong enough to fade away our love of life. I am sure there are people who have understood every point spoken in this program. The information will remain for a while, but eventually it will be forgotten. The huge difference occurs when these topics are comprehended. Then, it becomes quite difficult for us to stop listening to the delivery of any new lecture. You will even be seeking to join an esoteric Gnostic group. That is why we invite our listeners to sign up for our next activity this coming evening, Friday, at 7:30 Eastern Time. For the moment, we're doing our activities online. Anyone interested, just send a message via WhatsApp to 804-200-9496 to register. We will have a small group where we have a section for questions and answers. Anyone is welcome to participate in the small group. Just send us a message before the time to book a spot on the list. That's right, dear listeners of the Radio Vision. When we comprehend wisdom, we fall in love and we become committed to it. We start feeling so linked to it that we begin to think based on what we have comprehended. I hope there is someone listening to us who is falling in love with wisdom, and of course, whoever falls in love with wisdom connects with love. And the one who connects with love and wisdom becomes an artist. And artists make beauty within themselves. Another important thing is that one can comprehend something, but one cannot tell a friend because there might be a different level of comprehension. You will be able to comprehend, but not your friend. If you are able to comprehend, does not mean that everyone comprehends. Therefore, when we sometimes own a little truth, we want others to think the same way we do. We encounter difficulties to comprehend that we are different. There are people who are at a level of understanding, while others are at a level of comprehension. Of course, they are very different. We can understand our psychological errors, but to comprehend them means we would no longer react with anger, no more envy, no more laziness. We would realize how important it is to gain comprehension. The more we truly comprehend, the more we are able to connect with the most divine that dwells within us. To reach comprehension is to attain a certain level. We get to know that there are levels and levels of comprehension. This is something truly interesting. We have to open our eyes widely. You have to be awake. You have to know that there are invitations worthy of accepting. As for example, the Spaceship of Mysteries is an invitation for you to understand your inner mystery. It is an invitation that will truly change your life. This program is an invitation to make a self-transformation, and as we deliver to all of you this topic, it is practical knowledge. A practice should be bound to it. While we are talking, we are practicing. So in a brief summary, what is comprehension? Comprehension is not from the intellect. Understanding is the one coming from intellect. There are people who understand everything but comprehend very little. There are other people who understand little but comprehend a lot. I would rather be one of the people who understand little but comprehend a lot. Therefore, understanding is a comprehension of inner knowledge without the process of reasoning that says writer and occultist, Samael. There is no need to reason. Comprehension does not belong to time. Comprehension is an instant. We think we need many years to reach comprehension, but in reality, it comes when you don't expect it. It comes and illuminates you, like a gift that comes unexpectedly. A gift brings joy, becoming more meaningful than a gift. If we are able to comprehend from instant to instant, we would live in ecstasy, in continuous joy. And where does comprehension come from? It comes from love, from the heart. How can we enter the heart? By cultivating virtues. And how do we cultivate the virtues? Practice serene reflection. Go farther and deeper, such as meditating, but meditating well. Praying, but praying concentrated, with the heart. By doing so, we will then connect with the divinity that dwells within us. We will definitely connect with the child of love that lives in our innermost. Comprehension is like the Holy Spirit. You don't know when it will arrive, but when it arrives, it produces great joy, or also great pain, because it makes you see how wrong you have been. The important thing is to realize if we are acting well, because we are wrong, we must correct what is needed. We must be willing to be aware that whatever is wrong, we must correct it. That is the key to achieve a real transformation of our existence, not by escaping, not by getting into deceitful situations. To attain comprehension is to be able to connect with the truth. When the truth arrives, we believe that we have made the work, while in reality, it was a tremendous effort of the heart. The heart has been the one that got comprehension. For this reason, we invite you all to always listen to your heart, to feel its beating, to feel the serene and calm breathing. When we are able to get a still mind, to calm the mind, then we calm our hearts. When we succeed in this, we become a joy, and that joy is shared with your neighbor, with a friend, with our beloved ones. Then we become a blessing to everyone around us. We have been speaking in the Spaceship of Mysteries about the world of the mind. Please do not forget, we are here every Wednesday at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. It has been a pleasure talking to you. This is Sivan Saron, and that is all for today.